I hope you were able to experience the PC gaming scene back in the early 1990s because it was awesome. Now, you didn't have any online reviews to try and figure out what games you wanted to get, and there were a few magazines and there was word of mouth, but for the most part, you had this box to look at. So you had to look at the cover art on the front and the information on the back to figure out if this is the game that you wanted to get. Now, this is Stunt Island, published by Disney in 1992, and it retailed for $60 back then, and that's the equivalent of $130 today. So quite an investment. If you were like me, your parents bought the games for you, and that was quite a sacrifice for them. So it was really important to make sure that this is a game you really wanted to get and you weren't going to get bored with after an hour. So fly it, film it, edit it. I mean, it sounds pretty good. We got this game and ended up being a really awesome game. Part of what made the experience so great was that it was very physical. I mean, you had this box, and once you got it home, you get the shrink wrap off, open the box, and there was so much fun stuff in there. So we had, of course, all the floppy disks that it came with, a manual, actual manual with information about the game, and then other stuff. In this case, with Stunt Island, it came with an actual game map that showed you different locations on the island that you can fly stunts and film your movies. So just a lot of information within the box. And you had like warranty information about other products like the Disney sound source, and information about the strategy guide in this case. So Stunt Island, the official strategy guide. I remember we got it at the same place, the same software store that we got the original game at, and it cost around $20. All right, just a brief overview of the contents. It contains a brief history of Hollywood stunt flying, information about the aircraft, how to win the Stunt Pilot of the Year contest, set design tips, and then editing tips. And so I think it's interesting that the very first chapter is just a history of Hollywood stunt flying. So it gives information about the actual stunts that sort of inspired Stunt Island. It gives information about some of the famous movies and the famous stunt pilots. Pretty interesting. I remember as a kid, this really interested me because it showed about some pretty cool stunts and pretty cool people that would do those stunts. So also has something about Art Scholl here. Chapter 2 is about Stunt Island aircraft. It first of all contains information about some of the basic aerobatic maneuvers, but then it goes through all the planes in Stunt Island, just one by one, and it gives historical information about the actual plane, but then it talks about how they're used in the game Stunt Island and some of the characteristics of them. Moving on, next chapter is how to win the Stunt Pilot of the Year contest. And if you've seen my other video, I would say the information I got in that sort of started here. It gives general hints about how to figure out some of the stunts, but then it goes through stunt by stunt and just talks about what you need to do, what kind of views you need to use, even things like throttle settings and so on. So it doesn't help make all of the stunts perfectly easy, but it's certainly a start to helping you win the Stunt Pilot of the Year contest. Next chapter is set design tips, and this is really interesting because if you've used Stunt Island, you know that the set design is one of the most powerful parts of the program. That's where you can set up objects and set up things like event lists, collision windows, things like that. So this chapter of the book is pretty interesting because it talks about how to do some basic filmmaking stuff like establishing shots and just the way that you set up the stunt and film it, whether it's a stunt or a movie or whatever. That's set design tips. Okay, editing tips, somewhat similar, but it talks about how to take that film that you have put together in the set designer and how to make it flow really well. So it talks about continuity, cross-cutting, close shots, long shots, and so on. And it has a very brief interview with the Hollywood editor. Okay, finally, Appendix A. This might be one of the best parts of the book. This is an interview with the designers. I think it has 3 or 4 of the designers. It has Adrian Stephens and then a few of the others. I don't want to butcher their names, but it's really interesting talking about the development of the game. So I believe it says here that it came in May 1990 is when Adrian says he started working on the game. And then in that July, he started actually building the game. So it was a pretty long process, at least at that time. And the game just developed over time. So good information here about the development of the game. Maybe at some point I'll scan this or put this information online or in an archive because it's good stuff. So finally, additional information about how to get help with the game. And I might mention that interview was in 1992 before the game even came out. So it's pretty interesting to see that perspective of it. The question is, how can we find this book today? Let's look online. It does have a listing on Amazon, and when we bring it up, it's not available. Let's look on this book finder, and it says no results. I bought mine on eBay several years back, but looking today, it looks like there are no matches. Now, one place that has a lot of books is the Library of Congress, and lo and behold, Stunt Island, the official strategy guide, is available in Washington, D.C. at the Library of Congress. You can set up an appointment and I believe view the book there. But unfortunately, not a whole lot of great ways to get the book today. I would recommend maybe setting up a saved search on eBay so you can get notified. That's a little bit about Stunt Island, the strategy guide, the game itself, and just gaming in the 1990s. It was a pretty awesome time. I'm glad I got to be a part of it, and I hope this brings back some great memories for you.